Okay. Good evening, everybody. Sherene is an award winning animator and composer whose films have been screened at TRIFF in past years. Her film scores have been heard on, hold on, um, channels, thank you, such as AMC, Spike TV, and Netflix streaming services. She is the owner and founder of 87th Street Creative, which focuses on animated marketing videos for companies such as American Express, as well as nonprofits. She has taught workshops with us in the past, and we're excited to welcome her back and have her tell us more about who she is and what she's been up to lately. Hello, Shireen.
Hi, Stephanie. Thank you so much for having me. It's nice to be here.
And well, it's nice to have you. So tell us what has been going on in your life lately.
Well, the focus definitely the last few or several years since last being in Tryon is actually really focusing on my commercial work and the work that 87th Street Creative does. So we do a lot of explainer videos. So it's less film, less narrative, and it's much more about explainers, but still sometimes with characters. Like for example, we did this project about a year and a half ago for a nonprofit that helps victims of domestic violence. So we were able to share this woman's story, but still keep her anonymous by doing an animated explainer video. So that's kind of a lot of the work that we're focused on.
That's amazing. I love that. And as far as 87th Street Creative, first of all, I kind of feel like I know where the title or the name came from, but can you give us a quick sort of 30-second elevator pitch on how did you come up with 7th Street Creative?
Yes, absolutely. So basically, I was living on West 87th Street in New York City, and it was just like a really sort of like crucial time in my life. I had a 6-month-old baby and a 3-year-old toddler, and we were, probably a little growing pains. Probably needed to move, but we weren't moving. We had bought this apartment, and we're like, we're gonna stick it out. And so 87th Street was just like a really sort of formative time in my life and having 2 and then I had a 3rd kid and I had to leave 87th Street and move out, but I wasn't about to change my company's name. And also what's important is I called it creative because I didn't quite know exactly what I'd be doing. I actually started off the business doing graphic design and strictly, static graphics. And thank God I didn't call it, 87th Street Creative graphic design or something because I shifted over into motion graphics and doing animation really about 5 years ago. So it's good because I'm just a creative person and I feel like I can do anything with this company name.
Love that. And it's so sort of reminiscent, I guess, of some bigger, celebrities. They've named their production companies after their address or the street they grew up on. And I love that because it's kind of all brings it back together to, this is something sentimental to me because this is where I grew up, you know?
Yeah, it's funny because I was looking at like different places in my life with different addresses. And I did consider choosing the address I had when I lived in Los Angeles and first learned design. I was living at 1731 Colby. And so I was like, oh, how about 1731 Creative? And I'm like, oh, it sounds like some sort of year that something happened, like as if I'm some sort of like, ancient 200-year-old, 300-year-old company. I was like, I can't call it that. So I got eliminated pretty quickly in the drawing board.
Well, you are obviously familiar with Tryon International Film Festival. Can you tell us from a filmmaker's perspective, specifically you being an animator, what is Tryon like? How is that experience for you? Because we know what it's like on our side, the planning of it and the logistics of putting it all together. But I'd love to hear, like, as a filmmaker, what it's like for you.
Oh gosh. Well, I will say I had 2 films in the festival. One I was able to attend, and one I was not. And of course, the one that I was not able to attend the screening of is when I got the award for it from from TRIFF. But the the first one, I mean, it was amazing. It was that year it was all about horses. And so the opening night film was a horse documentary. There was a giant like ice sculpture of like a horse's head. There was a painter on like the opening night gala, like doing a live painting of a beautiful horse. I mean, I just love that sort of theme, and it obviously all makes sense. I'm gonna totally get the name wrong, but the local horse, I don't know what to call it, like horse farm.
Well, the acronym we call it is TIAC, but it's Tryon
Yeah.
International Equestrian Center, yeah.
Yes, yes, exactly. And of course the irony of it, since I've been at Tryon, my youngest child has gotten very serious about horseback riding, and so I spent a lot of time on a horse farm over the last summer.
Yeah, it sounds like you'll be back at Tryon for other things then.
Maybe, yes. So yeah, I just felt like it was I mean, it was such a just a great opening gala with all these fun things. And then also throughout that sort of like few days, it was just like walking through town and like, oh, I'll pop into this screening or I'll pop into that. And of course I went to several talks and that was really awesome. And there was somebody that I met at Tryon International Film Festival at one of the talks who I ended up running into like 2 or 3 years later when I was at Sundance last year. Oh,
Oh, amazing.
like I was just like, holy seen you since Tryon. Like, I didn't know you were gonna be here, you know? So, yeah, like, it's just, like, small world, right? And also I just love, like, all the, like, the shops and the restaurants and the cafes. It was all just really, really welcoming. And I think another thing is the main screening room, or theater, if you go on the top floor, you can sit on, like, couches. Like, I was like, "Yeah, I'll sit here. This will be fun." I was by myself, so I was like, "I don't know if anyone's gonna sit on the couch next to me," but I ended up running into someone I knew. So yeah, it was great. I really liked, obviously, just everyone involved with Tryon, and I think it's a really great festival.
That's awesome. So going off of, I want to talk a little bit about the film scores that you have composed and how they ended up on these streaming platforms like Netflix and AMC.
Well, it's funny you should call them streaming platforms because when I made
Were
these
you still getting
scores.
the DVDs out of the boxes?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I often say, yeah, I was on Netflix when it was a DVD company. So, even, my children don't know what that Netflix was like then. So, yeah, one of the best films I ever scored was called Small Voices. It was a very powerful feature-length documentary about an orphanage in Cambodia. And actually not all the kids are orphans. Some of them did have a parent, but maybe they couldn't be taken care of. Anyway, it was a very, very moving documentary. And I mean, this was, oh my God, I'm going to date myself. This was like 20, almost 20 years ago, maybe 18 years ago. It was definitely, it's featured on my like IMDb page because the score was just so, so like important to me, important to the director. And it was a very big deal at the time when it got to be on the Netflix catalog as one of their DVDs. And since then, I'm sure the director has struck some sort of deal or arrangement with a different streaming platform at this point. But yeah, and the same thing with AMC. It was actually on television AMC when like there was no reruns or recording it or any of that.
Yeah, you had to catch it when you caught it, like
Yeah,
right when it was happening.
exactly.
Okay, that's awesome. So how can you talk about a little bit about how, just to talk about 87th Street Creative, how you have taken what you know with graphic design and animation and really turned it into, I mean, this is a pretty profitable company existence and you're basically doing what you love for a living. So how did you start with all that and how has it grown since then? And what are some
Um,
of the, companies? I mean, I know I mentioned American Express, but talk to us about some of your biggest clients, whether they're, the American Expresses of the world or a nonprofit that you've loved to work with.
yeah. Well, okay, wait, there's a lot of questions there. So, well, first of all, a lot of times, a lot of the clients that we do get to work with, whether it's American Express or a project like this that we did for Walmart, like this was a 15-second ad campaign with 3 videos in the series, each one featuring a different photo product, like photo cards, or this one was for photo mugs. A lot of it was through agencies. So I was either white labeled or outsourced because the agencies didn't have this in their wheelhouse. So sometimes the person at an American Express or a Walmart knows me, sometimes they don't. And then sometimes I'm not represented or covered by, an agency. Sometimes it is direct to client. And I would say sort of one of the biggest clients I've worked directly with was Calendly, the scheduling app. A couple years ago, we did Yeah, it was like an explainer video. It was about a minute and a half long, and that was great. It was really fun to work directly with the client and not have an agency in between. So it's a real mix. And I mean, the reason we work with nonprofits is just because that work means a lot to me in terms of, I want to put out good in the world, and a lot of that is through the nonprofits that I can partner with. So we also got B Corp certified this year, which means, or actually it was last year. Oh my God, it's already January, right? So we got B Corp certified in 2025, which means that I don't know if anyone has heard the term B Corp, but basically it's companies, for profit companies that are putting people and planet on the same level as profit. So it's this sort of like idea of a triple bottom line. I think the most famous companies that are B Corp certified are like Ben and Jerry's or Patagonia or Warby Parker, and of course these are all product companies, but I mean service-based companies can also be B Corp certified. And part of that means is that like 87th Street Creative, which doesn't have a product or doesn't have, a manufacturing plant, it means that, we have specifically said, okay, we have a design to give pledge, and we make sure that a certain amount of our work every year is either with nonprofits or discounted for small businesses or with schools. We just finished a couple projects last year for a school. One of them, okay, I have to show it off. It is really cool. It's for F&T MSHS 223 in the Bronx, and this was their logo, and so we animated it. So
That's so cool, I love that.
yeah.
Well, let's talk about your animated films that you entered, and I'm sorry it's getting louder where I'm at right now, but let's talk about Cool for You and You Are Not Small. Where, did those ideas come from? How did they come about? And you could talk about both or one or the other. It's totally up to you.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and there's actually kind of an evolution from them, and I could also, I think, share it in the background while I'm talking about it. So this is Cool for You, and this is an animated short film that I created based on a children's book. So all of these drawings and illustrations came from the original book. I actually really didn't change anything. I really tried to stay so true to the original illustration. The only things I had to do was the transitions or like that kind of transition. Obviously, I didn't really want to do a lot of page turns, so figuring out how to transition between the scenes. And part of the reason why this project even came about is that it happened during like the beginning of COVID, when it was like, okay, there is like no work, there's no nothing going on in the world. I'm losing my mind. I'm stuck at home. And so I ended up deciding to ask the author and illustrator of the children's book, Cool for You, if I could turn it into an animated short film. And they said yes, thank God. So that's how, and of course, it was like, again, because of just COVID and what was going on, I didn't have a lot of work, and I was mostly just running like my own little like full-time daycare at home with my 3 children, school-age children. So I animated it and I scored it. And I also did all the sound mix and sound effects. And my husband and I and our children, we actually did the voiceover. So it really was a very much a family project and a very personal project for me. And then a couple years after it did the festival run, and I started just sharing it professionally as I was networking and growing 87th Street Creative, and I shared it with a graphic designer who has his own branding agency in England. His name's Ben Glazier of Glazier Design, and I showed him Cool for You, and he's like, I might have a client who'd be interested in doing a similar project. And I remember being like, okay, sure. I'd be shocked if someone else wants to make a movie like Cool for You. But excuse me, I ended up getting introduced to him or introduced by him to his client, who's actually Lucy Hawking, Stephen Hawking's daughter, the scientist's daughter. And she is an author. She writes wonderful children's books, a lot about science and the environment. And was in particular working on a series called Princess Olivia, and how this princess basically doesn't want to be a princess. She doesn't want to be royalty. She wants to go heal the world and basically like help with environmental issues. So each book in the series is about one of those issues. So she said, "Yeah, I want to basically not turn the book into a film, but she wanted to promote the film and create almost like a little short animated video to promote the book. And these are basically scenes that we created where she sort of almost wrote like a script that was sort of a very sort of shortened version of the, because it's a chapter book, so it's a much longer book. And we made this animated promo for her book. And this is that was the narration was supposed to be like little Lucy, the author, as like a young child, talking about how children can help save the world and do like, the name of the film is You Are Not Small, and it's this idea that, like, nothing you do is too small. We all can do something, even children.
I love that, and it's a great message. And also, that's a Lucy Hawking. I'm gonna have to look up her books now. That's pretty cool. So, oh, I think we just lost Adam, but Kristen,
Okay.
welcome back. I want to give you guys a few minutes, Kristen, you or Rhodes, or if Adam pops back in, if you want to ask any questions. And tell us, Kristen, where you are at, where you tuning in with us.
Yeah, tonight I'm from Greer, South Carolina. Yeah, here in the upstate. I was just
Awesome.
really excited to be on.
I mean, like I said, Kristen was one of our phenomenal volunteers during TRIFF this past year.
I love that. I volunteered at the Los Angeles Film Festival for years.
And
Yeah, I think there's so much value in volunteering at film festivals, whether you're a filmmaker or a film fan, or it's just such a fun way to get involved. So that's awesome, Kristen.
Kristen, do you or Rhodes, do you have any questions you want to ask?
Yeah, I'll ask a bunch of technical questions if you want to get into animation.
Sure, let's bring it.
So,
I
oh
use
man,
Adobe After Effects.
there's a
Um,
lot. So, yeah, just like keyframings. There's a lot of like detail in the movements. So, like you're doing a lot of keyframes for each of these little things, and that's like a telling difference between fast animations and well done animations is putting that time and attention to detail into each of those. How long does it take you to do these types of animations? What's the
Come
process
on.
there for you?
Too long. I don't know how many hours it is. It's just too many hours. Well, I mean, one of the things is, first of all, there have been some new software that's come out. I mean, since I made Cool for You, over 5 years ago. I mean, I think Procreate Dreams would have been like a really nice way of like animating a film, like some of these films I made. Actually, and now that I think about it, Lucy's film, You Are Not Small, the way I did that film is I actually brought on an illustrator and animator, and I sort of produced it and directed it. And my animator on that project, she did it in Procreate before Procreate Dreams was even out. So there you go. It's like, if Cool for You, I did that in After Effects, but the evolution of that was doing the next one in Procreate. And I'm sure if I'm already wanting to do another film, and I would love it if I could bring on an animator who wants to do it in Procreate Dreams, because I think that's where the next thing. As far as, wait, what was the second question? The technical, the software. Wait, there was another question you had.
Just like the putting the attention detail into keyframing each and everything.
Yeah, so that was the other thing with this, with Cool for You in particular. We weren't creating any of the artwork and illustrations from scratch. Everything was based on the original artwork, and the amazing artist who did it, she did everything in Photoshop as layers, and she also never expected anyone to ever look at those files. So it's like everything was just layer number 87, layer 80, number 80. Nothing was named or grouped. So it was a little bit challenging just to kind of jump in there. And on top of that, she had made all these custom brushes in Photoshop, and she didn't have any of those brushes or didn't share them with me. And so I remember I went on to like a again years ago, like School of Motions, like Facebook group, and I was like, "Hey everyone, like how would you make, brushes for this?" And one of the members of the group was like, "Here." And she just looked at the artwork and made like an entire brush set and just gave it to me. And I actually, she's in the credits as like a in the thank yous, because I couldn't have, because a lot of times what happened is like there was a scene where like the character's like swinging, and it was artwork that was static. So I wanted her to move, but then if I moved her, then there was like blank space
Yeah.
behind her. And so suddenly I had to like color that in. And it's not like, oh, I could just, like put white over it or black over it. It's like I had to match that color and texture. So that was kind of some of the biggest challenges. Like, yes, I didn't have to make any original artwork, but I almost had to like cover up some.
Reverse engineer it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
So it
was
was easier the new platform and the doing it through
Yeah,
Procreate?
well, so that was the interesting thing about the second film is that Lucy was sort of loosely basing it on the book she had made, but it was published by Penguin Random House and they wouldn't give her the rights to the illustrations. I think the illustrator would have given her rights to the illustrations, but they were owned by the publisher. And so and this was like 5 weeks away from her book tour. And she's like, what are we going to do? And I was like, I mean, we can just make illustrations from scratch, loosely inspired by the book. And that's exactly what she did. She's like, great, I love it. Let's do it. So, I mean, if you put the book and the film kind of together, like, oh, I can kind of see
Yeah.
how they're related. Different main character telling the story. We sort of that's why we spent
Book adaptations are always slightly.
exactly right, right, like artistic license. But it definitely made the whole thing easier because it was like, "Oh, well, let's just make this transition here the way we wanna do it." And yeah, the biggest challenge there was the 5 weeks as opposed to, like, just the months on end that I had during COVID to make Cool for You. So, yeah.
So you have to be really invested in these stories because you know you're gonna be putting a lot of time and just sitting with it for a very long time, just looking at the same thing and doing this little tiny motion.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I think anyone who decides to make a film, don't do it if you are not like, 110% invested in it. I think people have said to me like, why haven't you made another film? And part of it is like I can't be 110% invested right now. And that's I mean, I have a couple ideas of things I want to do, but it's like I'm in the thick of it now. I've got one child in elementary school, one child in middle school, one child in high school. My business is growing. I've got like 3 projects going on. It's like, you want me to make a film? Where's that 110% going to come from? So, yeah. But it's there. It's in the back of my head. It'll come out.
Sherene, first of all, the queen that you are, I mean, you're doing it all. You're doing with all these children. I love that so much. Speaking as a mom myself and a grandmother, there's always balls that we're juggling, right? So,
God, you're a grandma? Wow. It's that
well,
Zoom filter, right? Same thing happens to me. People are like, what? You have children? You look like a child. I'm like, the Zoom filter.
yeah. So I mean, obviously you came, you saw, you conquered with TRIFF, but what like how did TRIFF get on your radar? And what was it about our film festival? And I want to know about the other ones that you maybe selected to enter too. What was it about our film festival that you were like, I think I'm gonna enter and see what happens?
It's kind of crazy how Tryon came on my radar, but basically I had a publicist who I was working with to try to get more awareness for the film. His name is Adam Nelson, and he is good friends with Matthew Modine, who is a big supporter of Tryon. And I actually don't even know that whole story, how Matthew and Tryon got connected.
no one
But
does.
oh, okay,
No, I'm
okay,
kidding.
gotcha. But so yeah, I mean, he basically was like, you got to apply to try on it. And I mean, Matthew came on as like kind of an executive producer to basically try to get, more support for my film. And he was sort of happy to lend his name to the project. His co-producer also came on, Adam, another Adam, came on to help me a little bit with like some of the like setting up IMDb Pro for my film. And so that's really how Tryon came on my radar. And of course, then once I went the first year, I didn't need their help kind of applying again a second year. I kind of had already met Bo and some of the other people with Tryon. And then of course I did like what was the thing I did, Rhodes, like a webinar or like a educational like
Yeah, you did a class. It was up in the side room of the tea.
yeah. Yeah, so I remotely did a class with the festival, which was a lot of fun. I just feel like anytime you find like a great festival, like figure out a way to get involved, like figure out a way to connect with people. It's interesting because I now teach a class on Skillshare about film festivals and how to prepare your film for a film festival. And I also do a mentorship with WIA, Women in Animation, on how students who are finishing their senior thesis or final film can prepare their films for a film festival run. And the thing I hark on like every time is like just get involved. Like go, even if your film doesn't get into the festival, go to the festival, volunteer at the film festival, meet people, just get around and get it. And especially if it's local, like if it's in your backyard, that's like just a really important thing. And I felt like anytime there was a festival that was like open to filmmakers being involved and doing things, like I wanted to do that. And so that's kind of how I sort of got a little bit my start of like I even worked with a public speaking coach to get more comfortable with doing that. And so I started to get on a lot more panels, doing Q&As and all of that. And I loved it. So I think the next question was about what film
Your festivals that
festival.
you've and why you selected
Yeah.
those particular festivals.
Well, when it comes to Cool for You, I was really throwing a lot of spaghetti on the wall because I didn't know what I was doing. So, I mean, I probably applied to like over 100 film festivals because I just didn't know what I was doing. And that's partly why I offer the mentorship in the class now is like, be prepared, be smart. And it was also, again, it was like this weird time in like 2021, 2022 when it was like so many film festivals suddenly moved, online. Like they would say they were going to be in person, and then the Delta, virus would come out of COVID, and suddenly the festival was moved online. So I missed a lot of opportunities in going to festivals. It was like I applied to a lot of festivals because I was like anything that's going to be in person that I could go to. But I really kind of had like I put my film into like festival buckets. So it's like I applied to festivals that were all about like children's films, whether it was like, targeting certain like, maybe some of the films would actually go on like a school tour. Where we go around to schools in the area, ones where they were going to be able to get it, kids to come to libraries and screen the films there. The second one was environmental, like because the message is about, like let's do good things in the planet. I definitely focused a lot on environmental things. And then the next thing was like local. If it was any festival that I could attend locally, like that would be great. And it is ridiculous. I think I got into every single basically like North American city. Sorry, not North, United American Children's Film Festivals. So like Seattle, Rochester, Chicago, like all of them except the New York City Children's Film Festival, which is like a block away from where my mother lives. So I was absolutely devastated that it was just really hard to accept that I didn't get into that children's film festival.
That's a little crazy. We need to write a strongly worded email about this.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
would
was
say
super sad, really sad
I
about
don't
that.
get a lot of like really well done animations as
Yeah.
festivals receiving films, and it's just I mean it's a lot of time and effort, and people shy away from it. We get a ton of dramas, and they just don't have that same marketability that you're just talking about, hitting several different topics, multiple different ways of like accessing the market, and a lot of films just don't have that. So it was really smart to think it that way and submit to that way.
Yeah, and I mean, then there was also like a whole like there was definitely film festivals out there that were all animation, and I definitely applied to a whole bunch of those. And I mean, some of them I got into, and some of them I didn't. And those, I mean, some of those were obviously like really fun to go to and see, watch all the other animated films that were there. I always tell the mentees that I'm working with, try to find buckets to apply your film to because I think it increases your chances of getting accepted when it's like think from the film festival's perspective. How are they going to program your film? Where is it going to go in, what bucket are they going to put it into? So yeah, important to think about that.
You mentioned your mentorship. Where can people find how to look into it and sign up?
Yes, well, if they're a female or non-binary filmmaker, they should go to what is it? WIA.org. I think that's it. Am I going to get that right? Oh my God, no, that don't go there. No, 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 no. It's Women in Animation. Yeah, that's it. Okay, Women in Animation org. is where you can sign up for it. It's basically done, they have something called circles, mentor circles, and you can sign up for them there. Actually, it's womeninanimation.org, but it redirects you to We Are
All right,
either
very cool.
either
But
you are.
we
Yeah. I mean, it's a great organization for anybody in animation, anyone who's, identifies as female or non-binary. It's a great organization. They do a ton of things besides the mentorships. There's a lot of different things. And then on Skillshare, I have a class specifically focused on how to prepare an EPK, an electronic press kit. So that has nothing to do with animation. It can be anybody who needs help with putting together a electronic press kit for a
Oh, I
festival run.
actually need help with that. So I'm gonna have to, and I have like a one of those unlimited memberships. So I
Skillshare?
signed up, yeah, that I signed up for during COVID. I
Okay.
actually need to check. It's been a little while since I've logged in. I should check and see if it's still active. But it was
Oh,
supposed to be a lifetime membership because, we were all suffering together. So as far as just starting out in animation and I don't know anything about it, but can you give us some advice and some tips on best practices or what not to do?
well, oh my gosh. I mean, it kind of depends like where you are in your sort of journey. Like, are you in high school or are you in college or are you a college grad? Like, I would think I would give different advice in different places.
Let's start with high
Um,
school. Let's start with
okay.
because we do have a lot of high school students that attend TRIFF and are
Okay.
in that space. So let's start with high school.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're in high school, I think I would consider like exploring, lots of different classes just through even like YouTube. If you don't want to get a membership on Skillshare and you just want to watch some videos, there's some great videos on, how to do animation with something like Procreate that's only $20 as long as you have an Apple iPad. That's like a great place to start. And also you can do great illustration even on Procreate. It doesn't have to be animation, or Procreate Dreams more specifically for animation. So besides YouTube University, there's also some great courses that you can pay for online. We've already spoken about Skillshare. That's pretty affordable. Another one is schoolofmotion.com. That's actually where I took a lot of animation classes online. I think it's one of the best animation schools available to anyone. I was a teaching assistant for several years with them, and I remember some of the students I had, especially during those early years of COVID. I had someone as young as 14 and someone in their 60s. So it's like anyone can take these classes. Obviously you would need the software. But it's Adobe Creative Cloud software would get you there. If you're interested you're in high school and you want to apply to, go to college for an art school. I mean, it's, just try to take as many classes, obviously not at your high school, but even just online, and build up your portfolio. Now anybody can be posting stuff on Instagram, put together a portfolio on Behance. And then if you're in college and you're not majoring in animation, there's no reason why you can't do animation. One of the mentees I have this semester is actually a science major in Indiana, and she is making an animated film on the side just for fun.
Cool. I
Um,
love that. They got like
so,
a
and of course,
hobby animator.
yeah, and of course she's using Blender, sorry, not Blender as the 3D, software of choice because it's free, it's open source. And I don't know if everyone watching knows, but the last Oscars, a film that was made with Blender was done what won the best animation Oscar last year. It was a film called Flow, and there was no dialogue, it was just about animals, and it's absolutely incredible. So
That's
yeah, so I mean, it's like I feel like the barrier to entry in animation has like been lowered and lowered and lowered. And I think when you think about like 50 years ago, it's like if you wanted to do animation, it's like okay, go move to LA, see if you can get into Disney Studios and walk in maybe as like an intern or a secretary or something like that. But now it's like the tools are affordable and the software is affordable, and that's really really amazing. I think it's just such an exciting time to be alive that whether you are in high school or you are in college or post college, you can learn animation. Doesn't really matter actually what phase of your life you're in. Now if you want to make a living on it, then it gets to be a little more challenging, and
Well,
that gets
we
better.
say animation, but it's really just a very robust world of. I mean, you can do hand drawn, you can do 2D or 3D, you can do environment building, like the person that help you just make brushes and other assets to sell people to help out with those things. And so there's or just graphic design simply. So there's such a big world that you can fall in this umbrella under.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I mean, you could do claymation. I mean, you could do stop motion. I mean, there are so many types of animation. And I mean, so much of what I learned at School of Motion was not really focused so much on the software, but actually more about like principles of animation. And I found that really fascinating. And I mean, that's based on like sort of, Walt Disney 101 in terms of what he was doing almost 100 years ago, and that's what I really love about animation is, although learning After Effects or Appropriate Dreams, like that's important and the tools are important, I love understanding the principles and the guiding ideas of how do you make something believable when it's not real, and that's where I get really excited about animation, and I sort of start to geek out.
The Cool for You video that you are referencing was kind of what I've been looking at a lot with your work. So I love the idea of taking a story and bringing it to light, like you were saying, like through the animation. And my dipping my toe into this world of film festivals and film is more from a writer's perspective and coming into like having stories or things that I'd love to bring to light in this way. So I'm just curious your experience. So like it's interesting hearing that you worked with like the author for this one. I don't know if there's other projects that you've worked on, maybe where you wrote and brought it all to light, or like what that process was like for you. Or I think my real question was what Stephanie was asking around like how to even get started in bringing a story to light in this way.
So I mean, I am not a writer, and I am always trying to find authors who want to collaborate where they've, written a story and they're interested in turning it into animation. So I think it's great if, you really want to focus on the writing because there's more people out there like me also who want to work with writers. So I think it's always good to connect with other creatives and collaborate, and that's the thing that's also so amazing about filmmaking, let alone animation. It's like filmmaking is one of the most collaborative arts that are out there, and it's amazing, and everybody sort of puts their impression and touches it in some way, which is what to me what makes film somewhat more unique than the other arts. And, like I don't like writing. I mean, I journal a lot, but I don't really like to write a lot. And I would say, sort of more professionally or in more of my commercial work, a lot of times a client comes to us and like they don't have a script. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not the subject matter expert on your product or your service. At least just write something down, even if it's not great, and then I can finesse it. I also have the idea of the visuals in mind. So a lot of times writers who try to write for animation, they say too much. It's that like, show don't tell. Well, we're doing the showing. So don't tell at all. Like or just do the telling and we'll do the showing. So I think that it's a process to learn how to like sort of write for animation and for visual storytelling. But yeah, I'd love to see something that you've written or see some of your work.
Yeah, clients oftentimes when I interview them, I ask them simple questions about them and their business, and they're like, no idea. They just haven't answered those essential questions sometimes, so they don't even know how to describe themselves. I know that you get these 72 DPI pulled from Facebook logos, and they said, hey, make this, animate this into something. Tell me about that process.
Yeah.
Working with a client from like beginning to end.
Yeah. We actually just went through this with another school in New York City. They have this it's a PS25, the bilingual school in New York City, and they have this beautiful logo that's like a tree with like leaves that are like little like paw prints, and there's like a little person under the tree reading, and they've got thoughts coming out of their head. I mean, beautiful. They had a JPEG like that, it was like, okay, animate this. It was like, no. So there was a little bit of like negotiations and saying, well, okay, we're going to have to completely recreate this logo. We need to turn it into a vector logo, which means a logo that when we scale it, it won't pixelate. It's a little hard to explain that to a client, but eventually they understood. And that's what we did. We first took that original JPEG, scaled it up so it got pixelated and tried to sort of trace over it as accurately as possible. And of course, we showed it to the client once it turned into a vector logo. And they're like, it looks exactly the same. We're like, yeah, that's great. But we can make it, the size of a building and it won't, it'll also look exactly the same. But then, the idea is when we turned it into a vector logo, we also separated all the little parts and the branches so that they could, scale up and move and animate. So yeah, sometimes it is a little bit of a process. And sometimes clients do have the vector logo and then it's like, great, we can hit the ground running. And one of our favorite things to do is animate logos. We're actually on a mission to animate 100 companies' logos. I can share a couple of them with you here because we've done 23, so I definitely have quite a ways to go. But they're really fun. And oh my God, wait, a shameless pitch to I've done the Tryon International Film Festival's logo. Forgot for a minute. Yeah, wait, so maybe is that 24 now? Did I not count them? So yeah,
Definitely counted.
I think every film festival should animate their logo because hello, it's going to show before every single film that gets screened. So I think it's always a really good idea for film festivals to have like a really punchy, awesome animated logo. Okay, that's
Last
my
question
animated
from
logo pitch. I'm done.
yeah.
I'm off.
Last question from us. Like, do you mind talking a little bit about like what someone would need to budget to do an animation film? Price per minute or something?
Yeah, it really kind of depends on, right, like how long it is. The 5-minute animated film is very different than the 25-minute. I kind of usually say like, shoot for like 2,000 for every 10 seconds. So, probably ten to $12,000 per minute. I know that probably sounds like a lot. I can tell you that I believe Flow, which won the Oscar last year for best featured animated film, that I think their budget was $4 million, which is tiny, which is really, really small when you consider that they won the Oscar. And when you consider that they were up against a, Toy Story film that was probably hundreds of millions of dollars. So ten to $12,000 a minute doesn't sound so bad, right?
Yeah, I guess that's part of using simpler models and stuff like that too. But
Yeah. There's a lot of tools out there. I don't even know half of them.
well, would you mind sharing your socials with us so people can follow you?
Yeah, so the best place to find me is on LinkedIn. I'm very active on there. Sherene Strausberg is where I am, as well as I do have an 87th Street Creative page on LinkedIn, but you can just follow me on LinkedIn. And I do also have on Instagram, 87th Street Creative is my handle, 87th Street spelled out in creative. And then you can also find me, Sherene Strausberg, on Instagram. Those are probably the two best platforms. And then you can also just go to my website and there's a contact page there. You can send me an email, send me a message. I always love to hear from people, especially those who are interested in a new project. I'm always open to meeting with people and talking about potential new collaborations and projects.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us on Drift Talks. I hope you guys got something out of it, and we'll see you on the next second Tuesday.
Thanks for having me.